Hello everyone, we are going live online. It's 5 o'clock, so we want to make sure those who are following know that we're on. And we're just going to give a couple minutes for some folks to come in and grab a seat, and then we'll get going, okay? I remember you at middle school. Remember? I came to school. You had Thanksgiving.
Actually from Buffalo, and I started out with speech.
Good.
Started with speech delay, and then it was doing speech. The speech pathologist suggested that I have to speech before
I don't know, we can try.
touch, taste, smell. But
Is it extra sensitive?
he's a seeker. You either have seekers or avoiders. So some things he's a seeker. Like he's a type of person. Like he's a person that he like he chooses to see.
Does he see? Very true. So maybe I'm not that like it sounds like a little
I would guess. I don't know how to relate, but I would say yes. But he started to have like this, like, he was about to get out of town. The first time I heard of him, I was like, man, he's so tall. You know, he's so tired.
So within my mind, it's very bad. So I looked into the trajectory and looked at
We're still live.
Yeah, I turned the sound off.
John, Michelle. Our final contestant is here. And the price is right. Mr. Rigo, we got a spot for you here again. And when you're ready, we'll get this on.
Be nice.
Oh, you're right.
What's that?
It's a depositor bag.
So, want to thank our school board candidates for coming out tonight for Meet the School Board Candidate Night. Thank those of you who are in attendance. My name is Daniel Soder, superintendent here for Batavia City Schools. I'm going to try my best to moderate. This is my first time ever doing one of these candidate nights, and I think we haven't done this in quite some time in Batavia, so I really appreciate the recommendations from those in the community to have open dialogue with those running. This is a unique year in the sense that not only are we in a pandemic, but we have 4 candidates currently running for 3 seats. So we thought this would be important for folks to kind of get to know the candidates. We are live on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page, so those parents and community members could hopefully watch it even after the fact to hear. So we have some folks in the audience. There'll be some opportunity for you to come up and ask any questions that you may feel are important to hear from our school board candidates. I have some pre-generated questions. We have a wireless mic on the front, so we can take turns kind of answering them. They aren't nothing difficult, like a physics question or algebra 2 and trigonometry question, but they do have to deal with you as a candidate and information about yourself as a candidate. Some of your philosophies that we've gotten some questions from historically around what people want to hear from our board candidates. So I'm going to start, ladies first, with Mrs. Brenda Good. If you can just introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, who you are as an individual, and why you're running for the school board.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate it. My name is Brenda Rochester for a year, also as a CSE chair, and now I'm at Orleans Niagara BOCES, working as a principal in a BOCES special education program for students with special needs. So I've always been in education. It is clearly a strong passion of mine, and I'm running for the school board because I believe in our students and our children in the community, and I want to do what's best for them and make sure that we put students first, and that we're always looking to the needs of all children, not just children who can excel, but children who may need a little more assistance. As that is my strong background, so I'm here for the students and to help the community and help our youth become successful adults.
Hello, my name is Shauna Murphy. I teach at GCC, and I've been on the board for 6 years. And I'm running again because I think we're doing as good a job as we can be during these times. I enjoy the people that I'm on the board with, and I really am, it's very important to me to have all of the students have the best opportunities available, and I want to continue to do that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lundy. I'm Board of Raising Batavia. I'm actually currently an LPN at Leader Village Greens, but I spent 4 years as a teacher assistant to Michelle Lankin at the YMCA preschool program here in Batavia. I chose to run for the Board of Education because I feel like we need an independent voice that's kind of unattached to the school system itself, and I want to be able to be that bridge between the constituents, the parents, the students, the teachers, and the Board of Education to make sure we work even further on that cohesive unit that we have going right now. I know we've got a good thing going, and I'd like to see excel even further.
All right. My name is John Rigo. I'm currently on the board. I was appointed to the board after running last year as a write-in candidate. I'm local here in town. I manage a local business. I've been born and raised here, class of 97, actually, along with Jen, alumni of Batavia High School. My kids have gone through, I have one graduate, one graduating this year, and then I have my youngest in 3rd grade. So the reason I chose to run last year is I wanted to get involved in the business aspect of the school district. I've run our local youth football program here, the Batavia Bulldogs. I've been involved in a lot of the local youth sportings, and I want to get involved in this aspect and learn the behind the scenes. I think with the connections I have with a lot of the local community members, it would be a great resource to be able to communicate with them and explain things that go on. A lot of times there's a lot of questions, and sometimes we don't get the answer. We just wonder how it goes and what goes on in these board meetings. And personally, I never attended a board meeting until I got interested in running myself. So I'm glad that we're starting to open up as a board to allow people to come back in through these times. I'm running again to continue that, to hopefully continue to be a voice with our teachers, with our students, and with our families to the administrators here.
Great. So you may have said this, but we'll start with you, John, and work our way back around. What's going to set you apart from the rest of the slate in terms of candidates? Again, remember we have 3 open seats, 4 candidates. Why should someone choose John Rigo?
Well, it's tough to say. Anyone that runs for the board is obviously going to be a good candidate. They're not just coming out just to come out. They have an investment. They want to help the education field. So I've learned a lot since being a part of the board in August. I want to continue to learn. I think we do have a terrific Board of Education right now that we work really well together. There's some veteran school board members on there that is great. When I have questions, they can answer them for me. That way I can communicate with the families. Having the relationships I do with so many of the families here in Batavia, I think it's a great asset of mine that I can communicate things to the family members and the district families. I have a lot of pride in Batavia. People always joke and say I'm blue and white through and through, and I hope to continue that by getting reelected.
Great, thanks.
Okay, what sets me apart? I'm actually very green to this, and I think that is a benefit because I don't come in with a preconceived notion. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn deeper into the aspects. I don't know much about the financials. I've started but that's something that I'm very interested in learning. So it's one where I can come in and look and say, okay, here's what I see. Having John been on and Mrs. Bennett been on, they already have the background of what's going on. I can take what I see from the outside and say, okay, here's what I see, and here's what I'd love to do differently, or here's what I love what you're doing. I also, much like John, having been born and raised here and a family that's deeply involved within the city, I have a lot of connections and a lot of ties and feel like I'm fairly approachable and able to ask the questions that might not be the most popular, but I'm not afraid to ask. Because the only dumb question is the one you don't ask, and I would rather ask it and say, okay, you know, hey, someone at home is hoping to have this answer. I don't mind being the one who says, you know, hey, how do we do this? What is the answer to this? And bringing that kind of, the person who doesn't really know everything behind the board to the forefront.
Great.
I think I have a daughter at the middle school. My husband is a teacher. I teach at GCC, so I come from all different aspects of education. I think my strongest personality trait is the fact that I change my mind all the time because I'm willing to listen. I don't come in with any preconceived notions of what I think something should be or shouldn't be. I'm always just listening to all sides. I don't think I've changed my mind more than I have on this board. Coming in with a certain idea of what the way things should be, and then learning the information and you know, reflecting and realizing that I didn't know what I didn't know. So. Okay, so what sets me apart from others is that I have been in education for 18 years and I understand the system and the collaboration that's necessary to meet the needs of all students. I understand that it's not one perspective, it really does take a village, and in my current position, I work with parents, the students, teachers, any administrators, and we come up with decisions together that is going to best meet the needs of all students. So I think me being on the board, it would be beneficial to have that open mind and listening to all sides of everything before making any decisions, and looking at all different perspectives and how we can best meet the needs of all of our students throughout the entire district. So I think just my educational background would be very beneficial to the board.
Great. So we're just going to stay with you, Mrs. Good, and then work our way back. So what do you see as the primary work of the Board of Education?
I see this as working together, hearing what's being presented in front of people, not only from the perspective of the student, but from the perspective of the community, of the schools, of the teachers, of the administrators, and taking everything together collectively and trying to make a decision that is best for everyone. And really just having an open mind and trying to make sure that we hear all sides of everything and making sure that everyone works together and not to have any preconceived notions, but just hearing all sides of everything, coming together and trying to make the best decision.
Great. Shauna, again, what do you see as the primary work of the Board of Education, or the role?
I actually completely agree with you. I also think it's making difficult decisions, kind of doing triage, which has not been fun over this past year. And dealing with that to the point of understanding that every decision that you make affects people differently. But having to make those decisions in order for the whole district, you know, to continue to grow and do well. So, you know, that's been a lesson that I've learned over this past year, is just making those tough decisions and, you know, sometimes not being very popular, but having to do it, so. I piggybacked.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
So you did.
What they said. No, I absolutely agree. I think the board definitely has to make unpopular decisions, and we are the ones that have to work together and hear not only the board side, but the teachers, the parents, the students. I think it's important to gather all of that information and, as many said, to go in with an unbiased opinion and try to come up with the best solution that will work for everyone, including the district. Yes, sir, we aren't going to be able to please everyone, but do our best to do what's in the best interest of everybody involved.
Well, those are three tough answers to follow. You guys are setting the bar here. Well, part of that, I think, too, is communicating with our community. Being open to change and listening to our district families, being available for our district families, and having our community know who the Board of Education is. It's conversations that we've had to make sure, as a board member, that we're at school events, whether it's a sporting event, a musical, making ourselves readily available for our district families is important as well.
So on that same theme around community, how can the board be accessible to the community or to specific community groups? What are some ideas or things you think would help the board be more accessible?
Well, I think it's great with our new community outreach that we're doing with the district now, and making ourselves by going to events. It's not just come to meetings twice a month, but to make ourselves available through whether it's phone call, emails, whatnot. If a community member has a question or a concern, to bring it to us so we can explain the correct chain of command on if they're not getting the answer that they need or the assistance that they need. Don't just give up, come speak with us so we can bring it to the next necessary steps and everyone works together. It's going back to the students, the teachers, the staff, the administrators, the boards, and the community working together.
Again, I agree with John. I think one thing I've seen, my mom is on the city council, and I've seen her always make it a point to make an appearance at things because in her mind, it's important for city council to be there and to show that they care, much like it is with the Board of Education, whether it be a sporting event when our teams are doing very well, or a musical, or a music event, which doesn't necessarily get the limelight that a sporting event does. It's important to show that the board cares and that we're available and that we're out there. One thing that I hope to achieve if on the board is you look at the private schools, and people always speak of camaraderie and the family, and we need people to want to go to Batavia much like they want to go to Notre Dame or want to go to a private school. They're paying for it, and yeah, Batavia is the free option, but we need people to want to go there. I know growing up, my parents put on there, all my aunts and uncles, my siblings, I wanted to be Batavia Blue Devil. My children wanted to be Batavia Blue Devils. Now it's getting everybody else to buy in and want to be a Batavia Blue Devil.
Great. John, I'll repeat the question for you. How can the board be accessible to the community or to specific community groups? What are some of your ideas?
I think I know a lot of what I've done is not only be approachable, as Brenda said, but approachable everywhere that you are, but also to educate people as to what the board actually does. And again, you don't know what you don't know. Until I got on the board, I thought that they were responsible for a lot more than they were responsible for, didn't know they were responsible for other aspects of the district. So a lot of it has been explained to people that either you're talking to the wrong person or I will get you the answer if I don't know the answer. But a large part of it is being approachable and not acting annoyed if somebody wants to ask you a question about the stadium while you're taking a shower in the line. So, and I think that's, it's a hat you're wearing all the time.
Right.
So I always say in education that you meet the students where they are, you meet the children where they are, you meet the family where they are. That's how you develop relationships, that's how you work with them. The community runs the same way. You meet them exactly where they are, where they're at, or where we are in life. And if the past year has taught us anything, I think it's that education is huge, but there's so much more that goes along with it, the social, emotional aspect of students. So in this time during community events, being visible, being present for not only the good events, the sports, the proms, different things that we celebrate, but also for those hardships when students need extra food or clothes, or making sure that we get involved in all aspects of children as they're developing, because everybody's at a different place, and really trying to meet the community where they're at and trying to do what's best to support them.
Great. So just like game shows, the questions get harder as we go through the night, or at least more significant. So this question is around kind of educational programming. And so again, Brenda, we'll go back to you since you have the mic. What issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic programming and offerings, and what changes would you recommend as a board member?
Okay, so I go back to individualized education for students. I believe that we're in a new time where things are constantly changing with technology, and all students learn differently. So we need to look at every individual student. Students who excel need the opportunity to take classes that will help them to excel, help them to get into college or the specific area that they want to go into for their life. But we also need to look at students who are not students who will go to college, students who may go to vocational after work or into the military or things like that. I think we need to look at all students and see which different avenues we can provide for children, because not everyone follows the same path, and we need to make different paths available for all of our students. Like I said, not only the ones who excel, but students who may be struggling as well. What can we provide for them? So I would want to look at opportunities for all of our students and make sure that we are providing vocational hands-on education, as well as some of those hardcore academics, AP classes, and things that students need, and just check to make sure that we have pathways available for everybody.
So it's a longer question, so I'll repeat it again. What issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic programming and/or course offerings? And what changes would you recommend as a board?
I agree with Brenda as far as, because the reason why I ran for the board initially was what I was seeing at GCC was, and I think last 15, 20 years, it became a kind of blind path that everybody felt they had to go to college, and that it was different before that. So I was getting a lot of students at GCC who were very intelligent in the mechanical ways and things, but for some reason they felt they had to get an associate's degree, in humanities or something like that. And part of my issue is that I don't think these kids that wasn't that they weren't being guided toward the right way, and I don't want to say pigeonhole them, but I don't think that what they excelled at was being found early enough. So I ended up with students that a lot of them would fail. A lot of them would end up getting into a profession 2-3 years after failing, 3 years of college. Another thing that I would always bother me is that I would love to see an increase in student accountability. I would love to be greeted with freshmen at GCC, that when they handed something in, there was some sense of ego attached to it, that like, this is mine and I'm proud of it and I'm giving it to you, as opposed to, I did this last night and I'm not attached to it at all. And that was another reason why I ran 6 years ago, was because I just think that's kind of, that's still kind of lacking.
Okay, great. You need to repeat it?
No, I think we're good. Okay, one thing I hold close to my heart is I have 2 kids, one who excels and one who struggles. And the support services within at least our elementary schools are phenomenal. Our speech pathologists, our reading specialists, they have been amazing. But I feel very often, unfortunately, due to the number of students who need that assistance, we don't necessarily have the amount of time for those teachers or the amount of time for support staff, whether in the elementary side or even in the preschool. Those kids also qualify to have speech or OT or PT. And sometimes it's, they're kind of on the cusp. Don't worry, they'll get services next year. Well, next year they may not be in the same position. We need to be able to cut that off as soon as possible. And we have excellent people out there. They just don't have enough time, or we have enough resources to let them do their job. And that would be something that I would like to see improve, just because I know I have a young man in my house who he needs the extra help, and sometimes he's on that bubble, and as well, he's not bad enough to really need it. So as a parent, it's frustrating because you can see a child who would like to get help. And it's not that teachers don't want to help him, but they're helping him in every way they can, but he doesn't get that extra, 15 minutes every 2 days or whatever the case may be, because we just don't have those kind of resources at this time.
I think the earlier the better. We need to make sure that we're addressing our elementary kids in the beginning with our specialties, our readings, our writings, our speech. Unfortunately, we are down reading teachers, for example, that were in the past. Now, between the virtual, the hybrid learning, we have probably more kids now that need it than we did when we had more staff. So we need to concentrate on that. We got to make sure we have the resources for these kids to be ready. So when they get into the middle school and the high school, that we have those AP classes available for them, as Brendan mentioned, to have them available to go into the real world, whether it's college or some sort of trade. But the reading aspect of it, I think we can be better at, and I think that should be one of our goals as a district, is to address those so they're prepared to go into the next levels of school, whether it's middle school or high school.
Great. So I'm going to stop here. We're about 30 minutes into the Meet the Candidates thing. We're going to open it up for some community questions. The rules are, obviously, you can come up here, take off your mask to ask the question for the candidate, anybody in the audience who has them. If we don't have any, I'll come back to some of the predetermined kind of questions at that point. We do have some folks posting some questions online on social media, and I know Mr. Marucci is kind of assisting us with monitoring the questions, and he'll probably come and ask some of those as well, okay? So I'm going to put my mask on, and if anybody wants to come up, feel free to come up, introduce yourself, ask the questions to the candidates, and give them an opportunity to answer any questions. Don't be shy, we have students here, parents. This is your school district, your community, so. Anyone? John, you want to come up and ask your question? Thanks.
Hi guys. My question is from Michelle Hillard. She asked on Facebook. What are each of the candidates' opinion on working toward unmasking our children in school? And if they are of the opinion that they should be removed, how will they advocate for our children to get them removed?
I have the same question. So, thank you.
That is a good question. And anyone that listened in our board meeting last night, we did address a few of those things. I'm sorry, I kind of went forward just a point, okay. And we addressed that with the difference. There's a lot of misconception between the CDC guidelines and the state requirements. And I think that's a priority of us as a board. What we explained last night is to try to explain that difference up there. We can just say, hey, the heck with it, we're going to open up, we won't require our kids to social distance, to wear a mask. But the State Department of Health can come in and shut us down. And then what? Then our kids are all back virtual. So we're trying our best. I think our reopening plan has been great on the steps that we've taken. Our teachers have done phenomenal, whether it's been virtual or whatnot. I think with the state, we're seeing a lot more loosen up, and hopefully come fall, maybe that'll beat that, and we're maskless again.
I don't know that this is really going to be answered much better than that, because I think that is one thing that people may not necessarily see it as the board's hands are tied. It's not that the board being told that the masks have to be on, it's not the board said we have to do this, that, or the other. Whatever the state says is what we have to go on. So unfortunately, until the powers that be give us that leeway, give us that wiggle room, we have our hands tied. I mean, much like everybody else, we would love to go back to normal, but unfortunately, until the state gives us that green light, there isn't, other than voicing your opinion and writing to your congressman, your senators, the governor, whomever, trying to get that to go through, there's not a whole lot we can do until things loosen up within the state.
That's one of those things that we have nothing to do with. But I do want them all, I do want masks off as soon as possible.
So working in education, this is a question that I receive all the time. We do, just as these wonderful people said, we do have to follow the CDC guidelines. So there isn't a lot of control we have over it. Children have to wear masks while they're in school. But I work with students with special needs, students who are emotionally disturbed, and it is very, very difficult for them to wear masks all day long. So we have done some individualized programs for some students where we provide mask breaks quite frequently throughout the day, and for students to know when they have these mask breaks. The weather is breaking a little bit, so getting outside and allowing students to have that break throughout the day has been great as well. Although we all, I think, could agree that we would like the masks to go away sooner than later, I always go back to the safety purposes of things, and that knowing that your student or your child is going to school is going to remain safe because everyone else around him or her is also wearing a mask and doing the same things is really our, I think, anybody's main goal. Students returning to school. We unfortunately were 100% virtual for quite a long time, and I think
the current school board has really pushed me as a superintendent to try to figure out what we could do within the guidance. So I want to just say that the current school board continues to take that very seriously, the masking, the social distancing, to try to maximize as much in-person learning. So I think that is important. But just like yesterday, we talked about graduation, there are certain things that we just are not allowed to do, and part of the school board's responsibility is to protect the district from any liabilities, any lawsuits, any financial burdens. And when you violate Department of Health guidance, that could come with consequences like less state aid, less some of those things. So just want to make sure our listeners know that some of those things could potentially happen.
And I also wanted the rate of doing it correctly. Doing it correctly and making sure that we do it the way we're supposed to do it, because that's only going to contribute to how fast we can get all of this over. So I guess in my mind, if we do it well, if we follow all the rules, because I feel awful for these kids with prom being changed. The way it's going to look is certainly different from what my prom looked like, hair and everything. But also graduation, we all just have to accept the fact that the differences in the rules that we're following now hopefully will contribute to us getting back to normal much faster. And that's what the ultimate goal is.
Great. Any other questions from the community? Anybody else have anything? Again, don't be shy. Mr. Rucci is more than welcome to ask questions for you as well. Go ahead.
I noticed something was said last night, John, about the board drafting a letter. Can you just speak on that?
Yeah,
Yeah, slide it to the right.
gotcha. Okay. So parents reach out to us with some sample letters or example letters that other districts have sent that came to our board president, a couple of our board members, and also our superintendent. So we discussed last night of drafting a letter on behalf of our district to the governor, the Department of Health, both state and local, saying, almost like enough is enough. Let's go on, and to try to loosen up some of these guidance with us. So our community knows that the district does want that. Our board, we want, just like you, we want to go back to normal. We want to be able to have a normal graduation. We want to be able to have a normal prom. And it may go on deaf ears, but if we're the first ones to do it, maybe other districts, hopefully other districts around us and nationally start sending them as well. Someone drafted that first letter that got to us, so we took advantage. We're going to jump on and send it on behalf of our district.
Yeah, so just so you know, that was the charge of the board to me, so I'll be sending them a draft. They'll have something by Friday. They'll be, signing it, reviewing it, and then we'll get it out to the various officials and sharing with our community that the board is advocating for as quickly as possible return to normal, or even the letter is specific enough to say maybe not even requiring testing, vaccination for certain events like graduation, prom, which we know are very hot topics in our community. Okay, so that is.
That's going to the state.
It's going to go to Governor Cuomo's office, Howard Dr. Zucker, and then the local Genesee County Department. Yep, and we will post it on our website and social media. Okay, any other questions? We got some students. Any questions for future board members? No? Be shy? Oh, Mrs. Benedict?
We have two incumbents on the board right now and two supposed ones that want to be on the board. What is the two new candidates, what is your impression of the Board of Education? What do you know about the Board of Education? And the two incumbents, what have you learned in your year or your 6 years as board members that you didn't perceive or know before?
Well, how much time do we have? Being appointed just in August, and if you watch any meetings, and Alexander will tell you, I'm always calling her, asking questions. I have no shame in saying, hey, I'm the new guy, pulling that new guy card of asking why. I really do believe our board's going in a great direction. And it's great that this year we have more people running seats available, because that's showing that our community is getting more involved in our district, which in the past, if you remember going in to vote for our budget and board members, two names. So I think this is great, and Alexander mentioned last night that we used to have these meet and greets before, and I'm glad that we're doing them again. I think learning the things on the board is never ending, and with that said, I think they have to keep an open mind, because the way things have always been doesn't necessarily mean that's how they have to be. So bringing new ideas, being open to suggestions and ideas from not only our district families and teachers and administrators. So I think the learning aspect is never ending of it, and continue learning from it.
Did you find that the board members have more authority or less authority than you thought?
There's definitely less authority. It's funny when I always say, well, who does this and why can't we do this? And school opening, why do we have to listen to these quote unquote guidelines or guidances? We always keep hearing it's the law. It's not a law, it's just a guideline. But as Superintendent just mentioned, there's unfortunately repercussions if we don't follow them. Where I think sometimes, we think that the board just says this is what it's going to be, this is how it's going to be, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of that say and authority.
Okay, I won't pretend to know everything about the board. What I can tell you is that I do know that the board works very hard to do what's in the best interest of our district, both from the student aspect, the teacher aspect, and the parent aspect. I've watched you guys over numerous years use specifically, maybe I need to speak right now. I've watched you try to open up the transparency, having been much more closed off in previous years, and I think that's fantastic, because I think we needed that bridge to get from the board to the parents, because I think many of us come in thinking the board is the end-all be-all of what is in charge, and then, hey, we talked to John at Great Lakes when he was deciding to run, figuring out that it's not as big of a thing as I thought it was, that we have to answer to so many people higher up. So I won't pretend to say, oh yes, I know everything behind it. I'm interested to learn and see what aspects we have things. I know on the financial end, you hear as a parent, why aren't we just using this fund, or why aren't we just using that fund? And it's okay, well, what is it tied to? Can we actually use it for this? Why can't we pull it from there? I'm interested to look more into that, because I don't know a lot about that aspect of it. But like I said, I know that I have seen the board work very hard to do what is in the best interest of our students, and I think I would like to see that continue and go even farther.
I don't think I really understood clearly how a district was run. I didn't know what really the superintendent did besides canceling school for snow days. Honestly, I didn't know. Everything is Annabelle's fault. I'm joking. I think that what I didn't know coming in was I didn't know the makeup of our community. I didn't know the financial aspects of running a school. I didn't know how much red tape there was. It's very complicated. Nothing is cut and dry. You can't make one decision without it affecting other aspects of the district, and you are, you're just another tool in the toolbox regarding how the district is run, and and I since learning again, a lot of what we do is kind of triage. A lot of it is just kind of having to choose not the most important thing, but whatever is more serious at the time in making those decisions. And the board it's very interesting and a lot of fun. So that was a surprising aspect. I enjoy who I'm on the board with, but it's just a lot more complicated than I ever imagined.
I'm going to go along with Jen here as well. I don't know very much about the current board, and I think that is a positive. For me, I don't have any preconceived notions or anything like that at all. I do understand how the board should run. When I was in Oakfield, I presented to our board as a school administrator for 4 years every month. We would do a board presentation, and we would each present our parts. I do know the collaboration and working together. So I'm hopeful to come into a group of people who have that same mindset and are working to meet the best needs of the students and do what's best for the community as well. just know that a school board should work together with a community, and it sounds like they do, which is fantastic, and I want to be another member of that school board to help our community and help our future of America and our youth.
Is there any more questions from the audience? If not, I'll go back to a couple of the other ones that I had. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to transition to some school board type issues or questions related to your role as a school board member. One is, what are your thoughts on the current proposed budget that's out to vote for May 18th for the school districts? What are your thoughts regarding the budget and its potential impact on taxpayers? I can repeat it. What are your thoughts on the current proposed school budget that's out for vote on May 18th and the potential impact on taxpayers?
So I think every family, everybody should clearly vote. Everyone should take in their own personal, individualized take on what the budget is presenting and look at it as a whole and try to pick apart the pieces that are really to help the community. If there are changes that may not be necessarily in favor of everyone, I think we should just look at each part and see, which ones are really just to benefit as a whole the community, because as we know, we can't always please everyone, and there has to be changes so we can best meet the needs and provide the best programs for our students, the best sports that we can provide to them, any hands-on extracurricular activities. We have to look at all of those things and see as a whole how that one budget can try to meet as many of our students as we possibly can. So it's really just looking at it as a whole and trying to figure out where the best needs are for that.
The ill wasn't because of the question, it was budget stuff.
Your favorite topic?
I kicked and screamed learning about the budget. What I know about the budget is that it was come to painstakingly and with a lot of work with everybody in mind. And it's in the same respect, it takes a village to raise a child, to contribute to a child's future. It takes a village to support the district. And I hope that people are happy with the hard work that Scott has done, that you have done. And I think that it's the best, I think it's the best that it can be. And I think that it will impact our community favorably. And the school, obviously the school district.
I'm glad that right now I don't have to make that decision, but I'm appreciative that I'm able to vote on it, because I do believe that you do need to spend money to be able to run a school, and obviously it doesn't all have to come out of our pockets, but I think the group works very well to do what's best and try to ease the financial burden on the taxpayers and pass things that don't necessarily have to increase the budget while still meeting the needs of the teachers and the students and the financial responsibility that does need to be made for. I think that you will always hear, well, I don't even have kids in the school. Well, when I was in school, there was somebody paying that didn't have kids, and it just goes on and on and on. So at some point, you do have to look at it. It is, yeah, it is. And it's one where you have to make some sort of investment to be sure that we are still meeting the needs of the teachers and of the students and those that need the financial assistance.
Sitting through my first budget this year was definitely a great experience. The packet that a board member gets to review is probably about this thick.
That's the first one.
That's the first packet. But going through the budget seminars as well and actually breaking it down. Mr. Rosansky did an amazing job for us breaking it down to layman terms for a board member to look at, and we were able to ask a ton of questions as well. What is this, whether it was a $1,500 charge or a $15,000 charge? Scott had an answer for us, and as a board member, making the right decision and being able to ask those simple questions, and it is $1,500 on a huge budget doesn't seem like it's a whole lot, but our current board was asking those questions of what it is. So that we knew exactly what we were presenting to the community. Overall, a 0% tax levy increase is amazing. For right now, if you watch the board meeting when we had it, Ms. Benedict got emotional. She was very proud of our administrator administrators and our superintendents. And I think that's awesome that our board president was that emotional, and she was happy that we can present that to our community as a board. If you look at what we reviewed last night over during our board meeting, the percentage of our school budget has actually gone down on what your taxes have been over the last 15 years. Our portion of it has dropped, and maybe Scott might yell at me for being wrong, but I think we were about 56% down to about 50% now, which was the largest decrease in percent based off of city, the library, and town taxes. We're the only ones that are dropping in our percent of what contributes to your taxes. And I think that's important as our community just got hit with a lot of assessment increases. That has nothing to do with our district. Our district is actually going in the right way. We're decreasing the percentage of your taxes that you're paying. It's dropped almost every single year over the last 15 years for a portion of those taxes.
Great. Obviously COVID has been the biggest issue that we've had to deal with as a country and as a local community. But other times there's other significant issues like, civil unrest or economic challenges. How does the board stay focused on student achievement during those times?
Well, at home, it really directly affects them in school. I think again, going out to our community outreach program now, Mrs. Wazlewski is doing an amazing job for our outreach, whether it's families that need clothing items or personal items. Brenda mentioned the families that need assistance with food or whatnot. Our school meal program has been amazing. All through our virtual time, we were not only lunch and dinners, but breakfasts, long weekends, we're able to provide that. So I think we're teachers in the building, but we're together as a community. So assistant at home and when we have them in our buildings is very important.
I'm going to piggyback on John as well, and I agree. And I think along with what we had said earlier, making ourselves visible and showing that we do care, that we're involved in all the different activities, whether it be different rallies or the community. I volunteered in the closet for Julie, and just seeing people come in, how can I help you, and what is it that you need? Or, we're quick to shoot out texts or emails or Facebook messages and say, okay, hey, so-and-so just had a fire, we've got a kid this age, this age, mom, how can we help? What can we do? I know Dr. and Mrs. Kubinak have been huge on the free pantry, which has been a huge asset to the community right now as well. And our meal program, I went to school in West Virginia, and I've talked to some of my sorority sisters who are teachers, and they were shocked when I said that we had meals available during the summer and that we have meals on long weekends. They have a bus that drives their meals to their students. And I'm like, oh, you just pull up and get your meals and you're good. And they were shocked at what we were able to do in just 2 weeks. They still haven't been able to figure out, nor have they been able to afford it and make it happen. So I think the more that we continue to give back and try to do, I think I love what we're doing. I think we need to keep pushing and moving it in the direction that we are, because it's definitely helping our kids and our families and the community itself.
Repeat the question.
So as, given all the issues that arise, things like civil unrest, a pandemic, economic issues, how does the board continue to stay focused on student achievement despite all the issues that we have to deal with that don't necessarily focus on like teaching and learning?
I think by acknowledging that all of that is going on, that not tiptoeing around it and not acting like it doesn't affect our students regardless, whether it's where they're growing up in the household, we have programs like SOAR and things like that help kids that just might not be getting into trouble, but they're just kind of on the fence with going either way. And I think that that's the stuff that's really, really important regarding acknowledging that, looking at our students and thinking about what matters to them, what their lives are like at home, what they're experiencing at home, what they're exposed to, and either, like when I would visit the middle school and I would see certain students that were in the school on days that they weren't supposed to be there, but because of, I think this was a huge look into a lot of our students in the district home life. And I think that that's one thing that was, if you want to say, one of those silver linings is it gave us a really, a better view into what our students are experiencing. And if anything good comes out of it, it's that our knowledge of how to deal with those students that are, that were having trouble before but having more trouble. But also, I mean, I can't tell you how many times when they were virtual and my daughter was, you know, at home, and just the teachers checking in and just asking, how are you? You know, what did you do today? You know, those kinds of things that were just making sure that the kids were okay. So that, it was beautiful in that regard.
I think when we look at the academics, we know that the students come to school for the academics. I mean, that's the underlying, that's why they're there. We want them to grow up and be a successful member of this community or wherever they end up, you know, living as they move on, whatever job that they have. So that is ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want to do is teach our children to be able to be successful adults. But like these people said, we can't overlook the things that are impacting them. So we have to make services available for them and give them an outlet. So whether it is, you know, increasing that counseling or making sure the students have an outlet, hearing them, hearing things that are going on at home or things that are just going on in the community that are impacting them. So students know they can talk about it, we are acknowledging it, but we're going to continue to teach as well. So we have to find a good combination of continuing to meet their social emotional needs while also continuing to focus on the academics, because we are going to get past this and we're going to move on with some of these hiccups that we have, and we still need them to be able to have the education that they deserve, that they're coming to school for, but we also need to look at tap into those resources that are available to them to make sure that they can continue to be successful. I think continuing with their outlets of the sports and having those social events is huge, because that is part of their outlet, their friends, talking to others, and you're talking to other people who are going through the same exact thing for them. It's going to relieve a lot of stress for them, which will make them more focused while they're in school. So providing services and providing support for them to acknowledge, yes, we know this is happening, this is the support that you have in the community, this is the support that you have in school, will relieve a lot for them and give them that open mindset of, okay, I can go and I can think clearly, I can learn these academics and I can get through.
So again, I want to offer anybody the opportunity for our last question before we bring tonight's Meet the Candidates forum to a close. And with that will be my last question for the group, and it will be basically any parting words or advice that you want to give regarding your candidacy to the voters, the community. This is it. This is your kind of last opportunity to make one last public plea. Thanks.
So just going back to my opening statement, I'm very student-centered, I'm very open-minded. I believe in collaboration among everyone. It does take a village, as a couple of us have stated before. It's not just one group of people teaching children, and it's not just academics. It's social, emotional, it's vocational. There are so many layers that go into education that students need, and I think this past year we really realized that. If you didn't know it before, that school environment and being around same-age peers is extremely important, and I think everybody has to keep that mindset. And you can ask anybody that I've ever worked with in the past 18 years, and they will all say that I'm very student-centered. It is about the children. They are our future. They are why we're here every day. They're the reason that we come to work every day. They're the reason that we are here, and why we're doing this. This is why we're all here. This is to support the children. So working together, making sure that we hear the voices of everyone, including the students. What do the students need? We need to listen to them in school. We need to know where their needs are, because we're living the pandemic like they are, but maybe not the same way that they are, not the same age as them, or we're not seeing and hearing the same exact things that they are. So I think that collaboration and communication, but also listening, that's a huge aspect of being a school board member or being any member of any educational system, is really listening to where the needs are and trying to focus on that and how can we best help our students to move forward. And thanks for coming.
I think that after 6 years, I have learned a lot, and I'm always open to learn more, and I really enjoy being on the board, and I love contributing, feeling like that I've accomplished something by being a part of this group of people, and I think that we've been doing a great job, and I just would love to continue to do that. Thank you.
believe having that opportunity to be part of the solution and part of what makes Batavia High School, Batavia City School District good and great and move forward. And I've seen great changes over the last few years. I moved back home to Batavia specifically for my children to go to the Batavia City School District. I was in Buffalo and knew that my older son needed a little help, and this is home, and this is my safe space, and it has been the best decision I made. I don't regret it for 1 minute selling my house after 19 months because my son needed to be here and with these teachers and in the Batavia City School District. And I will stand by that to the end, and I'd love to be able to be part of helping make it even better than what it is right now.
I have to say, I just truly love being part of this community. My wife moved from Roaring Version here. She knows I'm a Batavian. I'm through and through Batavia. I love watching and seeing the different, how our buildings have advanced, how our facilities have advanced, how our district has grown. I love the fact that, again, touching that our community members want to be involved in our district. By showing up tonight, that shows us a lot. If you're watching online, again, it just shows the strength of our community. I think our district is doing a great job, and we're going to keep getting better. We have a great staff, we have great administration, and we have a great board that continues to fight for the kids. We talk over and over, there's a business aspect of it, but the most important part of the business is set the budget aside, set the numbers aside, is our children and what's best for them. So we can't band-aid any situations, keep finding the best solution. The board may not necessarily make the most popular decision, but we truly do put a lot of thought and time into it. There's things that have come up that we said, okay, we'll table it for another meeting, that put more thought into it before we just make a quick decision, and I think that's important. I would love to keep learning and being part of this board. I've been on since August. I like asking questions and learning more and being able to communicate with our community members. And again, if you have a question, feel free to reach out, not just to myself, but any of our board members, our administrators, Sean is always available. But reach out to us, because if we don't know the answer, we're going to find the answer for you. And I think that's on behalf of the entire board. If we can't, Mr. Solar will find out or find us the answer and get back to us so we can follow up with you. I can follow up. Mrs. Benedict has been very open and very straightforward, as she wants some transparency. So one of our biggest pushes this year is to get our board meetings back open, community members being able to ask questions to us. And one of my goals is so our community knows who our board is, so we can be out there and be available for you.
Great. So again, I want to thank the four of you for coming tonight. I know you all have busy schedules, working professionals, children at home to navigate. I also want to remind those watching that the budget vote is May 18th, starts at 7 a.m., goes till 9 p.m. And you also can vote for one of these, or three of these four candidates for 3 open seats that we have. And the results will be known pretty quickly afterwards, so that'll be exciting for you guys to give us some idea. But just want to thank you guys again on behalf of Batavia City Schools and the Board of Education